been about a couple of years since we originally came up with the idea of Krea. And I always remind my students and fellow colleagues that the mission statement we wrote about Krea was to prepare humanity for an unpredictable world. And we wrote this mission in 2017. Little did we anticipate that hardly a year has gone by that we would be facing maybe one of the most unpredictable set of circumstances thanks to COVID-19. And I think it still sharpens the reason for why we exist as a university in terms of preparing our students. We were thinking about the fourth industrial revolution and the interplay between humanity, machines and nature. But in some ways I think COVID-19 has sharply brought into focus the reason for why Krea was created and the kind of role education plays in preparing our students to tackle the challenges. Maybe not of this extreme kind all the time, but certainly in its first year, it brings the mission to reality. I think to me, the idea of liberal thinking, which is a better phrase than liberal arts, is about the freedom to choose. So when I studied, like many people in the university, at age 17, you had to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, or if you just went for one of these non-professional degrees, you had to study only economics. And the world is so complex and so diverse, and to solve pretty much any of the world's problems, you need to be conversant with many disciplines and perspectives. So what I've always appreciated about the liberal arts and sciences or liberal way of thinking is to have that freedom to choose. Because simultaneously when you're 16 and 17, your brain is also still evolving. Something we know now from all the research that's done in cognitive neuroscience, that your brain is still evolving. So it will completely limit choices as we do in schools and colleges. I always thought it was an anathema. So it needs exposure to different perspectives, different disciplines, so that you ultimately make an informed choice. So in a way, it's high time coming, and in fact the new education policy really underscores the need of the hour in India is for institutions to become like this. And so in some ways the fact that Krea is ahead of the curve as far as India is concerned, but certainly not compared to the way US and European institutions are. I think it's high time that many institutions come up like this in India, so that students are ultimately given the choice to pursue such a course of action. I think I can say, having watched my faculty at Krea and the students, right, so let's take what happened when India went into a lockdown in the third week in March. We actually decided to close down operations a week before that, and we sent off our students and our faculty to various places from where they came. And in a way, then after that began this journey that we had no idea whether it was going to be 1 week, 2 weeks, and now we are running into months. And if anything, one of the core values of Krea is about being adaptable and resilient. Hats off to my faculty colleagues and my students, because they have been adaptable, they have been resilient. We are a first-year university. Many processes that are taken for granted in any other university are yet being formed. For instance, a learning management system, which we didn't have in March and April, we now have one. And so I see the preparedness. We've just launched the second year, today in fact. But I've seen the preparedness compared to what it was in March. But I don't see any lessening of the commitment. Now we have more resources thrown at the problem in terms of the learning management system, in terms of a very dedicated IT team, media center. There are a lot of people helping. But the basic faculty promise to teach and the basic students promise to learn. If anything, Krea has underscored during these pandemic times, that we will find a way to move forward. I think that is really quite inspiring to me, watching this entire experiment unfold before my eyes. So I think even if it is not these times, we've always been on the lookout for partnerships, whether it's research, whether it's teaching. We've always been looking for partnerships, whether they're universities or NGOs or non-profits or even corporates, because it adds an expansion of capabilities for the student and for faculty. And in fact, one of the core values of Krea is what we call porous boundaries. So we are professors of practice, which means practitioners come into the academy. We also want our students to go and inhabit the real world well before graduation. Beyond these two, we want to have pathways of partnership so that students, faculty can collaborate with their counterparts, whether they are in India or whether they are in any other part of the world. What the pandemic has sharpened in some ways, people seem to have a little bit more time and flexibility because we're all shut in our homes and locked down. But it also taken away other opportunities because students who have had to travel to various universities and physically be there have been deprived of that opportunity. So it's both a win, blessing and a curse that it has expanded the reach of partners wanting to partner with Krea. It has also changed the dynamic of the partnership. It's gone more virtual. But the essence of partnership as a way to create win-win situations for faculty exchange, student exchange, complementing what we are good at, what the partner is good at. I think that, in essence, has not changed. And I think one last point that I want to end on, something that I've always found very fascinating. It was a research project that I was doing on global liberal arts, the evolution of liberal arts universities around the world. And I came across this interesting factoid that of all the institutions and organizations that human beings have created that have lasted 500 years or more, there are only 85 of them. When I came across, I was a bit struck. As somebody who's an amateur student of history, I was quite struck, and I didn't know about this. So I understood what all academics do. You start going down the rabbit hole to find out what is the story behind this. As an economist, I knew that the thing that we see around the world today, which is corporations and companies, they didn't exist in the previous 300 years. So then you start scratching your head as to what is it that we created as humans that has lasted 500 years. So you think of religious institutions like monarchs and Catholic churches, but I didn't think there were 85 of them that have lasted. So then when you do further digging, I was quite struck by the fact that 71 of them were universities. Even the more prestigious ones like Harvard don't make the list because Harvard was not around 5 years. So you hear about the Oxfords and the Cambridges. Then you realize that the concept of a university, which is a center of knowledge, production, dissemination, learning, it has been around for a long time. We're not talking of the Nalandas and the Takshilas that came thousands of years ago and disappeared. I'm talking of continually operating universities. And then when you think back over the last 500 years, right? Think about the cataclysmic changes that we have seen, starting with the printing press, the Reformation, Renaissance, imperialism, bubonic plagues, first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution, the two great wars of the 20th century. I mean, human beings have gone through hell and back. So I think it also gives me both perspective and optimism that we will get through COVID-19 as a university. Maybe not as Krea. I mean, my hope is that Krea will last for a very long time. But the idea of a university, and many universities have closed doors, many of these have continued functioning, obviously 71 of them have. That means there is something within a concept of a university, the interplay of ideas, faculty, learning, students, research, that makes it able to adapt and be resilient in the face of some what we think right now is life-altering changes, but in the history of the last 500 years, maybe one more blip. So I'm fairly certain that universities, more than any other human organization, will be able to withstand COVID-19 and come out different, stronger, being ready to take on the challenges of the next 50 to 100 years. Having spent half my life now overseas, and of course having come back every single year, I think, to India for my own research and family affairs. So I don't think I've ever missed not being in the country. But I think being able to set up a university of this kind in the place that gave me a lot in the formative years. I did schooling, I did my undergraduate, I did my postgraduate in the university before I went abroad for a PhD. So to be able to give back to setting up an institution in my own country has been, let's say, humbling, exciting, inspiring, and a sense of gratitude that I was able to do something small. Also, I think bringing together the kind of faculty, students we're able to admit, the kind of people who are backing it, I think it all needs to fall in place for it to become a reality. You know, the cliched phrase, it takes a village. It's never going to be done by one person. It doesn't matter how much time, how much money, how much talent that one person has. It needs a number of things to fall in place. So I think the serendipitous nature of it was purely how this all came together. And it might have not been possible 10 years ago. So there's a timing for everything. And the timing was just about right. And I think, you know, the ultimate test will come when there will be many more Kreas. And India is such a big, vast country and with such a huge population. But I think it's home to many such projects like Krea. We should shoot for innovation, excellence, and like in many other facets of Indian life, where we've done quite well. But unfortunately, when you look at the higher education landscape, we have no institution in the top 100. I think we should aim for that. And I think we should aim and Krea should have that ambition to make it in the top 50 or top 100 among the institutions. And if I've had a role to play in it, I will feel forever very thankful.